Welcome to episode 1558 of the Multifamily Collective. Today, let's talk about, I have to look over here and remind myself what we're talking about. Eliminate gossip. Suffice it to say that gossip, in almost any form or fashion, is not necessarily a good thing. Now, if you go back to the time when we were hunters and gatherers, I've read stories in history books about men would go out in the morning and they would hunt, and women would go out in the morning and they would gather. And when they come back in the afternoon, they prepare whatever meals that are necessary for lunch. Call it lunch. I don't know what they called it back then, but and or dinner. But in the afternoon, there was a period of time where they sat around, not unlike humans today who wander the hallways of business buildings or high rises and or out in the world at coffee shops and other places, and they would sit around and they would gossip about one another in the community. If somebody wasn't pulling their weight in the hunting or the gathering, they got talked about in those circles. Or if somebody wasn't gathering at a pace that was necessary to keep the tribe sustained, then they were talked about in those groups. So it is something that has existed. The point of that is it's something that has existed for a very long bit of time. And you bring it into present day, it happens around the water cooler, it happens in hallways, it happens in conference rooms, and it's interesting. It happens in earshot of the people that you're actually gossiping about. That happened many times in my life, and I've overheard people talking about other people, and it's just, in a way, it is not a productive way to establish trust in an organization. It is not a way to establish a loyalty to an organization. The better way, in my opinion, this is one guy's opinion, the better way to establish those things in an organization is to exit gossip and to implement or encourage hey, you know what? That person isn't standing here. And I'm wondering if you've talked to them about this issue, or somebody being the bigger person in a circumstance where gossip is happening and saying, hey, let's go talk to Mike. Let's go talk to Charles. Let's go talk to Chad. Let's go talk to those people about this thing you're gossiping about, because I'm sure that that particular piece of information would be useful to them, whether it's useful in the way of growing a character, whether it's useful in the way of growing a skill, whether it's useful in the way of bettering a system or a process. Instead of saying that thing is stupid in a gossipy conversation, say, you know what? I understand where you're coming from. That thing isn't very productive, but let's go talk to Chad about that, because Chad owns that particular thing. And let's just go understand that. We have this opinion, you have this opinion, but let's go understand more about that before we label that thing so aggressively, or we gossip about it and then walk away from each other and nothing really happens with that information, except that we potentially feel better about ourselves about venting it, or we feel better about airing our frustration, but no one benefits from that. No one really benefits. In fact, I would go so far as to say, in that circumstance, you've cheated two people out of becoming better. The person that you're talking about that might need to improve on character or skill, and you've cheated yourself out of going and doing a rep in the world of potentially an emotionally loaded conversation, or a conversation that certainly is rife with potential conflict. You've cheated yourself out of the opportunity to do a rep in having those kind of conversations. So my encouragement to you today is get the gossip out and do candid conversation in your organization. Take care. We'll talk to you again soon.